First of all, Doug Lofton, District 3. Doug, if you'd go ahead and come on up. Then we have Gary Bradford from District 4. And we'll also have Joshua Trudell from District 4. So if you folks would come up, and then we'll get the questions out, then we'll have each of you introduce yourselves, and then we'll take a 10-minute break. We do have lots of coffee, lots of water, and lots of snacks, so please help yourself, because what you don't take, somebody's going to have to take home, and we really don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone here that does not have the questions beside the candidates? And anyone here that does not have a 3x5 postcard? And anyone here that does not have a pen to write the questions with? Okay, we're going to go ahead and start, because we just start with the lowest number, nothing personal for any of you. And so if you would go ahead and introduce yourself. Doug, tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me tonight. Again, my name is Doug Lofton, and I'm running for the Yuba County Board of Supervisors in the 3rd District, which is primarily historic Olivehurst, with some outlying areas. I have a map here if you're not familiar with the district boundaries. I'd be happy to share that with you. Been married to my wife Tina for 25 years, have 2 grown sons and 4 grandchildren. I am the general manager, currently the general manager for Lincoln County Water District. I've been with the district 38 years and general manager for the last 15. In that capacity, I oversee a staff of 13, and we have an operation and maintenance budget of $4 million. The capital improvement budget varies from year to year. The last 16 months, that's been an $8 million budget. 2010, 2012, that was a $36 million budget as we made wastewater treatment plant improvements for the community of Lincoln. I'm running for the supervisor's position in the 3rd District. Primarily, I'm campaigning on term limits. I firmly believe in term limits. I believe that when you become a career politician, that you lose sight of the voice of the people, and you begin to worry about where your next campaign contribution is going to come from, rather than hearing what the people have to say and what's good for the people. I'm also opposed to Magnolia Ranch. Some of you may have read recently, as recently as yesterday in the paper, that Magnolia Ranch is no longer an issue. The developer asked the Board of Supervisors to rescind their decision. They accommodated him. I'm going to tell you, I don't believe it, not for 1 second. I think that what they're doing is taking that issue off the table for the upcoming primary election. And just as soon as we're through that cycle, they will bring it back, and the 3 sitting board members will approve that subdivision once again. I can't for the life of me understand why they would approve a subdivision in close proximity to Beale Air Force Base and potentially jeopardize the mission at Beale and harm the ag land out there. I'm also opposed to a roundabout. A lot of people in Olivehurst on Olivehurst Avenue they're proposing building a roundabout. And to me, it's spending money just because you can. I grew up physically conservative. Mom always said save for a rainy day, and I don't believe in spending money just because you can. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, Gary, it's all yours.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out this evening and listening to us. Thank you to the Yuba-Sutter Tea Party Patriots and the Sutter County Taxpayers Association for hosting this event. So my name is Gary Bradford, and I am running for supervisor in the 4th District, which includes the communities of Plumas Lake and Wheatland, portions of Arboga, the northern Camp Far West area, and areas around Spenceville, and portions of Smartsville as well. So it's a fairly large district. It encompasses about 150 square miles. The majority of that population lives in the communities of Wheatland and Plumas Lake. So going back a ways, I'll just kind of start off kind of where I came from and how I got here to give you some information. So I actually grew up in the Napa area, both in suburban Napa as well as the rural area outside of Napa. Spent probably about 7 years on a couple of acres there. We had some farm animals, and so that was a great experience for me as a kid. Went to UC Davis and graduated with a degree in computer science, and that's kind of when my journey from the Napa area to the Sacramento area started. So I've worked in information technology for 20 years. The first 12 of that was with IBM on a joint project with the state, the statewide child welfare system. And in that role, I served, or in the time I was there at IBM, I served a bunch of different roles, but worked a lot with stakeholders in the state and the counties and private industry to help implement and update and maintain that child welfare system. When I left IBM, I went to work for a very small consulting firm that did IT consulting for state and local government. And I was there about 18 months, and then unfortunately, due to a downturn in the economy, they had to lay off most of their employees. So I went to work for the state of California. Since I had really worked with them my entire career anyway, I had an opportunity there. So for the last 6 years, I've worked at the California Department of Technology at one of the primary data centers that essentially run the state's computer systems. So the majority of the applications used by the executive branch are housed in our data center, and specifically I work in information security at that data center. For about the last year and a half, I've been responsible for supervising a team of 6 people who are responsible for compliance and security vulnerabilities and those types of things. So moving on to my family, I've been married for 16 years. My wife's name is Jennifer, and she teaches in Linda at Cedar Lane Elementary. She's a first grade teacher there. And I have 2 kids, a son and a daughter. My son's in middle school and my daughter's in elementary school. I've lived in Plumas Lake for just over 10 years. And when we moved here, my son was only a year and a half, and we fell in love with the community. My kids have grown up here, and we just love it. You know, I have to be honest, originally when I moved here, it was because I could buy a larger house on a larger lot for less money than in Atomas where I was living, but I think it was one of the best decisions ever for my family to move here. So it's been a great experience for us. So, prior to moving to Yuba County, I had never been involved in my community at all, and I had never thought of political service. Shortly after moving here, I started a community forum in Plumas Lake, and it really helped me build a lot of relationships with people in the community and within the county and within local government. And so that kind of started me kind of on the path of being involved in the community and with what's going on. So the first thing was there was an opportunity to be a poll worker. Never thought of that, didn't really even know what those people did. And so I took that opportunity, and I've been serving in every election that I was able to since living here in Plumas Lake. And let me tell you, that's a great experience. I'd recommend it to anyone that hasn't had an opportunity to do it yet. You'll learn a lot about the election process. So from there, I became very interested in the levee improvements that were going on in South Yuba County, and that was predominantly through discussions that were occurring on the online forum. So when a seat opened up on the RD 784 board, I went ahead and applied for that, and I was selected. And I served there for 2.5 years, and then I decided to run for the OPUD board of directors, as I had heard a lot of complaints from community members. And I've been fortunate enough to serve the community on that board for about 5 years at this point. So I am just about out of time. So I will just, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about me later. So anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, Josh, it's all yours.
Hello, my name is Josh Trudell. I'm running for Yuba County Supervisor in the 4th District, as well as Gary. And I'd also like to thank the Yuba-Sutter Tea Party Patriots and the Sutter County Taxpayers Association for hosting this forum and allowing us to speak. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 32. I've been married for 7 years to my wonderful, amazing wife, Kelly. And we have 2 boys, and I'm crazy about them, and they're just crazy. My love and responsibility for both my family and my faith is what drives me. My passion and love for this country have fueled my desire to pursue local government in the hopes that I can make a difference and a lasting impact. I look forward to your questions, and as well as getting your input and meeting your candidates. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Josh. Very good. We're going to go ahead and get started. I just took and wrote the questions down by and names next to them if they're single questions for an individual, and I wrote all next to the questions for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Doug. Doug, the general plan of Yuba County was formulated with Agenda 21 as a major consideration. Will you support the Agenda 21, which is now referred to as Agenda 2030? Will you support that plan in the next upcoming general plan if you are still in position?
Actually, I have never bought into global warming.
Thank you.
So the quick answer to that, and I won't need a minute to answer this question, and the answer is no, I will not.
Very good. Gary, how about you?
So I think the question was the next time there's a general plan revision,
Yes, sir.
is that correct?
That is correct, because that's the only time it can be effective.
Right. So I don't believe that global warming is man-made either, and that we can do a lot about it. So I would structure the general plan based on what's for the residents of Yuba County, what's best for them.
Okay, very good. Audience, if you'd please hold all applause, or that way we don't interrupt the thing. And at the end of it, you can applaud all you want, okay? And then, Josh, your thoughts on that?
I'm not familiar with Agenda 21, so I couldn't sincerely answer that, but I also do not agree with global warming. So,
very good. There's and just just so you folks know, and I'm sure you're familiar with all already, there's a lot of learning curve when it comes to be on the Board of Supervisors, and I commend all 3 of you sincerely for putting your name in the hat, putting the time and effort into being a part of our county and impacting it. So thank you all. Next, Gary. The marijuana ordinance was passed by the current Board of Supervisors. Would you continue to support this ordinance, and or is there any changes to the ordinance that you would champion?
So for the most part, I agree with the current ordinance. I think that there's no place for outdoor grows in residential areas of the county, and I also think there's no place for large commercial grows in rural areas of the county. And so I definitely support indoor growing, which is my understanding of the current regulations in Yuba County, that no outdoor grows are allowed, and I support that.
Excuse me. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Okay, Josh. One of the things that's come up in talking to different people is the fact that the Board of Supervisors meetings are always on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Those at work, which are many, don't have the opportunity to come, listen, participate. Would you consider changing the Board of Supervisors meeting to the evenings? Why, and how would you fund it?
I would consider if it was a desire of the constituency of more people to go, then that would be a priority for me, to want to have more residents there. And definitely it would need to be, discussed with the other supervisors to come to a consensus. And that's a good question about funding. I don't have an answer about that.
Okay, very good. I know that one of the arguments that when we've approached the Board of Supervisors about taking it to the evening, Their concern was the pay of overtime to their staff, that they'd have to pay to have them there in the evenings. When I ran a business, all I did is I changed their hours. And so, to me, that would be a pretty easy solution. Thank you, Josh. Okay, Gary. The Sacramento Area Council of Government, known as SACOG, is a council of government formed in 1980 that is state approved but not mandated. It is made up of 6 local counties: Sacramento, Yolo, El Dorado, Placer, Sutter, and Yuba. The board consists of a representative of county supervisors and city council members. This agency coordinates transportation and land use planning and funding for the Sacramento region. Do you support regional agency control of local funding for transportation and land use planning and funding? Please explain your opinion.
So I think that the more local government is, the better it is for the people. However, I do believe that there is some benefit towards regionalization from a funding perspective, and so I certainly don't endorse regional control, but I do endorse regional cooperation and funding, and I believe that Yuba County does benefit from funding through SACOG for road projects.
Okay. The only challenge that we might have as a group with this is the fact that when the funding comes, there's always stipulations that tie into Agenda 21. So is there a place that we say thank you but no thank you?
So, you know, I would really need to research that further as far as what those strings usually are. You know, I do know from my experience on the OPUD board that, you know, typically any kind of grant or any kind of funding you get from a higher level of government always comes with strings. And it usually is unfortunate for the local government that's accepting those funds. But, you know, to be honest, sometimes, you know, you have to look at that as a trade-off, right? You need to serve your constituents and try to maintain as much local control as you can.
Okay, very good. Okay, Doug.
Drop my question.
This is a follow-up on that SACOG question. Whether or not you believe there should be regional control, do you believe Yuba County should be part of SACOG or perhaps RC instead of, or neither of these? And this is from our audience.
Actually, I don't feel that Yuba County should be a part of SACOG. I think we would be better served to be part of the Butte Area Council of Governments as a smaller county and dealing with smaller counties in the North State.
Very good. This question is for all of you. This, again, is an audience question. Yuba County Water Association and the Bullards Bar Dam. What are your views on this critical asset for Yuba County? As a supervisor, you'll be on the board. What would your decision be on what you're now dealing with Bullards Bar, that in April, I'm pretty sure, it's going to become part of Yuba County control. The funding then will come to Yuba County. So please, we'll start with Doug.
I'm somewhat familiar with the Yuba County Water Agency. The agency's been around a long time and provided surface water to the farming communities in North and South Yuba counties. As such, it has allowed the groundwater to recover tremendously in both, especially primarily in the South County, but in the North County as well. With respect to power generation, I understand. I don't know all the details or the ins and outs of it, but I understand that the PG&E has controlled the power generation for the last 40 years. That is now going over to the Yuba County Water Agency. I don't know if they will contract that out to be maintained by an outside party, but I know the power generation revenue will be coming back to the county and will serve the residents of this community very well.
Gary, go ahead.
Bullards Bar and the water that it holds back, as well as the power that it generates, are extremely beneficial assets for this county and its residents. And it's very exciting that you know, we're about to start realizing the benefits of that power generation. That the lease with PG&E is ending. You know, I certainly don't know all the ins and outs, but I know that there is discussion of using potentially that opportunity to provide low-cost power to businesses that wish to locate within Yuba County. And I think that's an outstanding idea, and if that's something that we are able to do, then I fully support that.
Okay, thank you. Josh?
Well, water is a very precious commodity for our county. A big part of our economy is through agriculture. But I think that would be very good for the county to gain that asset, and I think it's a good opportunity to look into maybe some more sophisticated irrigation and so we can have less stress on our water system during these drought years that we've had.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Gary, this is a question from the audience. Even though we've seen some recent rain, do you have any proposed ideas for drought help, i.e. alternative water systems?
So I'll say as a member of the OPUD board that I don't believe that Yuba County, in particular South Yuba County, has a water problem. We don't have a drought problem. We have a drought that is essentially, from a water supply standpoint, that is a result of state regulation and is not a result of sufficient local water supply. I think the Yuba County Water Agency, as mentioned by Doug, has done an outstanding job in helping manage the groundwater and recharge the basin. And my understanding is that the drop during the last few years of drought in the basin was minuscule, and there was still plenty of water. And so, I think that is a problem that has to be tackled on a statewide basis. I fully support sites. Right now we have a ton of water going down the Sacramento River and out to the ocean, and being able to capture that and store it in sites is what we need to do.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, next question. This will be for all of you. Yuba County has a known reputation of having extremely burdensome fees and permits for private property owners and businesses. What would you do to rein in out-of-control building permit fees and seemingly unnecessary home improvement permits? We'll start with Josh.
Well, a private property is an essential piece to free enterprise and having a healthy local economy. So the higher the fees and taxes on those permits, that more strain is going to be on having a healthy local economy. I would not be in favor of that.
Very good. Gary?
So, I'm not super familiar with what all of those fees are, but being on the OPUD board, I had kind of an understanding, at least from an OPUD perspective, as to why at least those are there, and also from an RD 74 perspective. And unfortunately, a lot of them are due just to infrastructure requirements to build and maintain the infrastructure for the residents of the area. Now, certainly, they need to be as low as they possibly can. And, I don't have any problem with looking into them and seeing to make sure that the costs that are being charged actually align, or the fees that are being charged align with the cost to provide the services associated with those fees. So, and I know local agencies, I can't necessarily speak for Yuba County, but OPUD and RD 784 regularly do look at their impact fees and compare them against current costs for construction and have lowered them in recent years as costs have gone down.
Okay, very good. And Doug?
Yeah, I concur with what Gary said there with respect to capital improvement fees. I am familiar with water and sewer connection fees for Lincoln County Water District. And a lot of that is looked at like a catch-up provision for the residents in the community that have been paying monthly water and sewer bills for the last 20 or 25 years. I do know that the capital improvement fees associated with the South County, specifically the Plymouth Lake region, are astronomical, and that's kind of what stifled or stopped building in South Yuba County in the Plymouth Lake area. For example, to pull permit fees in the Edgewater area, it runs about $36,000 to build a single-family home. That same single-family home in the South County Plymouth Lake runs about $70,000. It's just we need to figure out a way to pay down the capital costs and get building going back in South Lewis Lakes.
Very good, thank you. Next question. This is again for all. What do you see as the main problem facing Yuba County government, and what will you do to address this problem? We'll start with Gary.
So I'd say that the main problem facing Yuba County is jobs. And that isn't necessarily Yuba County government, but just in general jobs. And you know, I will strongly support economic development that can bring jobs to this county. In addition, kind of a more minor thing, but you know, I noticed that there's not an audio recording. I know they record it, but I can't listen to Board of Supervisors meetings on the internet. So certainly trying to, you know, make those available for constituents, so if they're not able to attend the meeting, they can listen to the meeting after. I know that's something we've been able to do at OPED, and I think it's very important as far as open government and transparency.
Very good. Doug.
I concur with Gary that jobs are a big issue for Yuba County, but it's a big issue up and down the state of California. When you try to do business in the state of California with the environmental regulations and the high taxes, our state government is driving businesses out of here by the truckload. So we need to work at that level and see if we can find a way to improve that for businesses to locate in the state of California and primarily in Yuba County. The other issue is homelessness. I think that it's a big issue for all of us. We see it locally because it's in our neighborhoods and on our streets, and we need to address that as well. I firmly believe that if our federal government can find a way to relocate refugees to the United States, we ought to be able to find a way to house our homeless people.
And Josh.
I would also agree, the economy, just like the rest of, most of the state and a lot of this country, that needs to get picked up. Our economy is definitely struggling. Government needs to worry about providing a environment to let businesses and entrepreneurs come in and create jobs and start businesses, and that's
Okay, thank you, Josh, I appreciate it. Question from the audience, and this is for Gary. What is your opinion of the Magnolia Ranch project?
I was wondering how long it was going to take to get to this question. I think for sure it's one of the two biggest issues of the campaign. And you know, I must say that the more I've researched the project, the more in favor of it I am. And you know, that is predominantly for the economic development that I believe it has the potential to bring. I don't believe it guarantees economic development. It can't, but it will get infrastructure to a place in a part of the county that is zoned for commercial and industrial. And without the housing development, I have no knowledge of how that infrastructure will get there. So can I guarantee that Magnolia Ranch will bring economic development and jobs to Yuba County? I cannot, but I can almost guarantee that if the project does not happen, the jobs will not happen.
Okay, we're going to have a follow-up question on this, and I'm going to ask all three of you to answer it. Why then, since it is private property that we're looking at, why are, and this is from the audience, why are hippies, drug addicts, and rogues allowed to overrule a government agency, Board of Supervisors, planning, etc., to deny people and property owners the right to develop their own property? We'll start with Doug.
Yeah, you know, as far as private property rights with respect to Magnolia Ranch, I actually concur with that. But if you actually look at the nuts and bolts of Magnolia Ranch, the proposal is to realign Southfield Road and take that right through properties of farming individuals that are not actually a part of Magnolia Ranch. So their rights are being taken away from them. To a heavier degree, on the other end, Ostrom Road, the small guy that owns 3 or 4 acres, Their lots are being taken from them to build an overpass. And they have, they're not going to be able to approve. They're going to be condemned in eminent domain. I mean, if you want to talk about property rights, I agree.
So in that, Doug, then would you be supporting Magnolia Ranch or not?
I am adamantly opposed to Magnolia Ranch.
Okay, Gary.
So the simple reason is that the state and local government has the ability for citizens to essentially gather signatures and put things on the ballot for the rest of their citizens to vote on. So, while I believe it's the job of the supervisors or any governmental body to take in all the facts and make the decision that they believe is best for their constituents and for the community, at times the community disagrees with that decision and they have the right to put it on the ballot and challenge it.
Okay. Follow-up question, and then I'll get to you, Josh, after that. One of the things I've heard many times, and there is an explanation for it, but I just want to see, Gary, if you have that explanation, is the people in the Magnolia Ranch area, the people that own the property, the people that are going to be directly impacted by that, have a right to make a decision on it. I live in District 5, Loma Rica. Brownsville will put them in the cusp. Do we have a right to vote on what happens to their property and that area that is impacted?
So I would say that if you're talking about what happens to the property and who gets to vote on that, on one hand, that's just 1,000 acres, that's going to be Magnolia Ranch. So to say that only the impacted people should vote, I mean, that potentially is the property owner saying that, they can do whatever they want and, zoning doesn't matter. So I actually, I disagree with that. I think that is land use is one of the things that the county is supposed to do. And, if that land use is challenged, I believe it's challenged by all the citizens of the county, not just the citizens that are directly impacted by the project.
Very good. Just want to throw that out there. Josh,
Yes.
back to the question initially, and that question was, let's see if I can find here. Why are that has to do with hippies, drug addicts, and rogues allowed to overrule a government agency, planning, etc., to deny people and property owners the right to develop their own property.
Like Gary said, land use is a function of the county board.
I'm not sure what you said.
And the process was just giving people their voice that are opposed to it to stand up and say, hey, I have a problem with this. I don't agree with that question.
Okay. Moving on, I think it was a pertinent question, especially when it comes to property rights. Okay, next question. This will be to Doug from the audience. Will you help us on the 11th Avenue water drainage problems? Our house was a half-inch away from flooding our floors.
Well, as I understand it, the 11th Avenue Olivehurst issue, and actually 10th Avenue, there was 5 or 6 houses that actually got 3-4 inches of water inside the home. As I understand it, that drainage area flows over into the ditch along the Highway 70 corridor, and that underpass was flooded for several days with Caltrans pumping water into the ditch. I've lived out there for 50 years. I've seen it happen before. If that ditch is kept clean, there's not a problem. The problem is if you go over there and look and drive by it, it's full of tulips. We had 4 years of drought, and so the ditch hasn't been maintained. I'm not sure who owns the ditch. I think that the argument's going to be between the state of California and the county of Yuba. Yeah, I would help by maintaining, keeping the ditch cleaned out.
Very good, thank you. This question is for all of you. What one ordinance or policy would you change to bring more jobs to the area? We'll start with Josh.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Well, I don't have enough knowledge of the local ordinances and policies that would need to be changed. But there are a lot of things that can be mirrored and used as examples in other counties across the country that have rising economies. There's a lot of good things that other counties are doing.
Doug, same question.
I'm not sure that there's any one ordinance or policy that would need to be changed, but I think that the effort to bring jobs to the county would require a collaborative effort from the county and cities and special districts and even the private sector all working together to sell ourselves and to put our name out there. You know, we have a lot going for us here in Yuba County. We have the water, so if you have an industry that has high water needs, we have that available. We're going to have, as Gary said earlier, we're going to have hopefully some cheap power available, so if you have a very high power need for a particular industry, I think that's a selling point. But I think that we all need to work together and focus as a community and a group to get the job done.
Very good, and Gary.
So, you know, as Doug said, I agree. I'm not aware of any single ordinance or policy in the county that is stopping jobs from coming here. You know, certainly, as mentioned earlier, there's a state issue that has a lot to do with that. I think the key is cooperation, private, public sector, looking at grants. You know, that the County of Yuba, the Economic Development Corporation, OPUD, Linda Water, worked with, got a federal grant to help locate a glove factory in the Olivehurst area. Unfortunately, you know, that didn't work out. But I think it was a good example of cooperation of local agencies and getting grant funding and working together to try to get jobs here. And I think that's, to some extent, that's the key, is, you know, you have to go after those kind of opportunities. I certainly would be interested to, you know, understand what the county is doing with respect to economic development, since I know we no longer have an economic development coordinator, and what can be done to, you know, essentially restore that function and you know, that focus.
Okay, very good, thank you. Doug, question for you. What is your position on groundwater management, which allows selling of surface water and replacing it with groundwater?
Well, that's an issue that's going to be coming to the forefront for the county residents here in the future. Yeah, as a water purveyor for a local community for domestic water supply, sometimes I take a little bit of exception to it, but I understand the reasoning behind it, and I understand the need to protect not only our surface water, but also our groundwater, because as we're moving forward, the agency is working on the new requirements from the state for groundwater management and Groundwater Management Planning Act. And so we all know that surface water has been adjudicated in the state of California for many, many years, but now we're going to find ourselves having to adjudicate the groundwater in the county as well, and we need to protect that asset.
Very good, thank you. Josh, a question from the audience. What will you do to protect the kids from marijuana? Are you for legalizing it?
I am not for legalizing it. To protect the kids, we just have to do a better job with keeping it off of the streets and keeping it away from schools. Do a better job cracking down with local law enforcement. There's lots of open communication that different parts of the community can have with the county government and county law enforcement agencies. It just takes people being on one team and cracking down on it.
Very good. Question for all. Do you support or oppose the implementation of Common Core standards in Yuba County? We'll start with Gary.
So my wife's a teacher, and at one point I applied for a job at the Plymouth Lake School District being an IT guy, and it had a lot to do with implementation of Common Core related to technology. And I will tell you that Common Core is by no means perfect, but actually I do support a lot of the principles related to Common Core. I think it is important for kids to understand why they're doing things and not just how to do them. And so that part of the curriculum I appreciate. I also appreciate the fact that Common Core requires technology to be used in the classroom. So, for example, part of the standards are actually to be able to give presentations from laptops using technology rather than necessarily just doing them on paper. You know, I think from that perspective, it helps prepare students better for the workforce. But certainly, you know, I don't like education standards that come from the federal government. I certainly would prefer that they came locally.
Okay, very good. Doug?
Actually, I'm not all that familiar with Common Core or the reasons behind Common Core. I have seen some of the math problems associated with that. I find it very confusing, actually, and to me, it's very, very difficult when it takes 2 plus 2, it takes 6 steps to get to 4. I find it very confusing. I don't like it.
And Josh?
Well, as a parent with a child in school, there wasn't anything that they did to prepare the parents, at least from my perspective. I don't even know how to, my son's in first grade. I don't even know how to help him with what they're teaching him in the class. We're not on the same page. And there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of good things that teachers get out of it, and that, you know, it's not all bad. But the fact of the federal government saying, here, this is what you're all gonna do, and we're gonna overreach our power on this, that I don't agree with that. It needs to go back to the state.
Very good, thank you, gentlemen. Next question again for all. What is your position on transparency in government and the right of the public to question the supervisor's actions? We'll start with Doug.
Well, I believe firmly in transparency. I think that everything should be above board, and I have no problem answering questions from any constituent with respect to open meetings. And you come into my office if you're a resident, a ratepayer. I'm happy to sit down and talk to you about any issue and just shoot the bull with you, actually. So I have no problem with transparency whatsoever.
Okay, Gary.
I'm a strong proponent of open government and transparency. I think that, you know, not only what's already in place with respect to the Brown Act and open meetings, but you know, government meetings should be recorded and be available via the internet. If possible, you know, live streaming of those meetings. I also fully support that, even though I know there's a cost involved. Government transparency is very important to me.
And Josh.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Bob?
Sure can. What is your position on transparency in government and the right of the public to question the supervisor's actions?
If there's something to hide, then people should be questioning people about it. There's no reason why it shouldn't be accessible to, there's no reason why it shouldn't be accessible to all of the public and the citizens to access. And if you're not being on the up and up about something, then something needs to happen.
Okay. Very good. This is another question for all of you. A couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago or maybe a year and a half ago, the Board of Supervisors of Yuba County decided to join the declaration for the state of Jefferson. What is your standing on the state of Jefferson? Would you support or would you not support? We'll start with Josh.
I have too many questions that I just that I don't agree with at this point. Some of my questions would be the cost of transitioning the government over, and how long would it take before the government is actually functioning and providing services to the people of the state, and what would happen with all the lost funding from California, you know, as the larger state. There's a lot of citizens that, we have a lot of disabled people that are getting funding from the state. I just have a lot of questions that would be prohibitive for me at this point.
Okay, very good. Gary?
So I think Josh raises some very good questions, but the northern 20 counties or so in the state of California have 6 representatives in state government, and the southern 2/3 of the state have 114. And in no way do I believe that is equitable, and it's why there's a State of Jefferson flag crying in front of my house. It's why I spoke to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors, the Sutter County Board of Supervisors, the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, the Butte County Board of Supervisors, and I've been to several other Board of Supervisor meetings in other counties, in addition to passing out legislature at the state capitol, and I moderate one of the State of Jefferson Facebook groups online. So I'm actually a strong supporter of the movement for no other reason other than to give representation in state government back to Northern California.
Very good. And Gary, Doug?
With the ideals of the state of Jefferson, I firmly agree with, lower taxes, smaller government, more personal freedoms from a conceptual standpoint. I love Yuba County and I love Northern California. I think that we have the natural resources and we have the water up here. Unfortunately, we don't have the votes. And the rest of the state, Southern California and the Bay Area are never going to let us go, ever. I do support the conceptual idea of the state of Jefferson.
And next, this is from the audience. Again, this is for all. What can Yuba County do in its role as a host community for the Beale Air Force Base? And we'll go ahead and start with Gary on this one.
What can we do? So we need to work with Beale as a partner, and I certainly don't know all the specifics of what that involves, but I can tell you one area where we're currently doing that is they're in the wastewater treatment. They have an old plant that would need to be replaced, and they want to get out of the wastewater treatment business. Yuba County and OPUD are working to connect Beale Air Force Base, hopefully, to the OPUD wastewater treatment plant, which will be a benefit actually both to OPUD ratepayers as well as to Beale. So that's one thing. I think we can seek their input on what's going on around the base. I was at obviously the Magnolia Ranch project, but there was also a recent project I was at related to recology, and the base was there and raised some concerns, and I think we should take those concerns. Anytime the base raises concerns, I think they should be taken seriously and addressed. So,
Doug?
I firmly believe in Beale Air Force Base and the mission out there. I would do anything to keep that mission viable and alive. I think the main thing that the county needs to do is to recognize what smart growth is and not encroach on Beale Air Force Base in any way, shape, or form. Beale provides several thousand jobs in this community and provides $600 million a year that's injected into this economy that provides support for small local business and sales tax dollars back into the county. I think it's important that we not encroach on Beale Air Force Base.
Josh?
I'm not aware of what is already in place as far as an open relationship with Beale. But I agree and believe that it's very important to keep Beale here. And I grew up in Sacramento, not far from McClellan, and seeing a base leave, it's devastating to a local economy. My neighborhood would be in bad shape if Beale left. So whatever we can do to accommodate them and keep them here and keep the relationship strong, so we have a more viable future with them here, is necessary.
Very good. This question is from the audience. This again for all. Do you support the pending legislation which would outlaw all rifles with detachable magazines? We'll start with Doug.
Obviously, I don't support any gun legislation. I believe in the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. And I think that if we allow them to start regulating guns, they won't stop. I just purchased my wife a new handgun last month, so.
Go ahead, Gary.
I don't really have a lot to say other than exactly what he said.
And Josh,
I'm sorry, Bob, one more time.
you bet. Do you support the pending legislation which would outlaw all rifles with detachable magazines?
No, Bob.
Very good. That's a clear answer. This next follow-up question is the same item is just yes or no answer. I'll make this simple. How about, would you support eliminating the bullet button? We'll start with John.
I'm not familiar.
Trick question, John. Okay. Just say no, Bob.
No, Bob.
Thank you. Gary.
If it's additional gun control, no Bob.
Okay, thank you. And Doug?
Eliminating the bullet button?
Yes.
Yeah, I support it.
Okay, very good. Do you want to change your answer, Josh?
No, I have no idea what it is.
Okay, very
I'm not
good.
gonna comment.
Moving on. Last question. Probably the most important question for both the Yuba-Sutter Tea Party Patriots and the Sutter County Taxpayers Association. And it will be for all of you. What is your definition of the role of government? We'll start with Gary.
So I think that question depends at what level you're talking. So I think the role of local government is to meet the needs of the citizens as they have entrusted that local government to do for them.
Okay. Anything else? How about state? How about federal?
So federal government is very limited, and they are to negotiate treaties and essentially provide for our protection as a country, and very little else. They do way more than they're supposed to do. I would say that the state government is supposed to be an intermediary in between the federal government, and really where I'd like to see the lion's share of the powers of the local government.
Very good. Doug, same question, all three areas.
I agree with what Gary said for the most part. I think the government, local, federal, state government should first and foremost hear the voice of the people, listen to what the people have to say, and then act accordingly. I think that's what we've lost most recently at all levels of government is the people and what the people want, what the people need, and hearing their voice. As a matter of fact, I was asked earlier about this. This is a megaphone. There's some in the back of the room, and I want to be the voice of the people. I want to hear what the people say and act accordingly.
Very good. And Josh?
The role of government from our founding fathers was supposed to be, much more simple than what it is. I got so many things in my head. They're there to protect. They're there to facilitate a free enterprise. They're there not to get in the way. The role of the government is to make this the great country that it is, and it needs to get reined in a little bit. And on a state level, it's getting out of control. They're impending so many different regulations that trying to force different power infrastructures. I know I'm getting off topic, but and here locally, role of government would be in a lot of ways carrying out those laws that the federal and state government are instituting and doing a lot of the same functions, but just on a smaller level, making sure that small businesses can grow, making sure that people are safe, and
Very good, thank you. Want to thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I do have a couple of things after this, so if you'd remain, but thank you for your participation in our first candidate forum 2016. Folks, what's your thoughts? I also want to take the time to introduce, I know there's a couple other candidates in the room here tonight. That one is from Yuba County. He'll be running for the Board of Supervisors, District 2, and that's Mike Leahy. So Mike, welcome. And help me if I say this wrong, we also have Christina Cervantes. I'm sorry?
It's Liz.
Liz Cervantes. Excuse me, Liz Cervantes.
District
My
5, Sutter
apologies.
County.
From Sutter County, she will be with us next month.
Yes, I will.
Thank you so much for being here tonight, both of you. Closing statements from each candidate, and we appreciate that. So Josh, if you come up as well. You're a guy, very good. And Josh, go ahead and please give your closing statement, then we'll move on through the line. 3 minutes.
I believe that I would do a great job because I have a deep sense of responsibility and passion for helping the community, growing it in a good way. That the constituency would agree with. I know I'm hardworking. I've been at the same job for 13 years. I know it looks like I haven't been working for 13 years. I've raised my kids in this community. I love it here, and I truly deeply care, and I would love to make a difference.
Okay, Gary.
Just thanks again for everyone for coming out and for the Tea Party and the Taxpayers Association for putting this on. I also think I would do a great job and would be honored if you would consider voting for me if you're in my district. Some key passions of mine and some things I deeply believe in is regular communication and interaction with my constituents. I would set up regular hours where I'd be available at least monthly in Lewis Lake and Wheatland if I was selected for constituents to come and talk with me. I also believe in government transparency and accountability. As mentioned earlier, I try to make supervisor meetings more accessible on the website. I certainly believe in local control. That is where government is closest to the people, and I would fight for that where possible. I believe in fiscal responsibility, economic development. I believe in personal freedom and also personal responsibility. And I also believe in easy access to government data and services via technology. And I think that has a lot to do with my occupation and my passion for open government. So anyway, those are some things that I stand for, and I appreciate your consideration. Also appreciate the other candidates stepping up and trying to make a difference.
And Doug.
I too appreciate the other candidates for showing up, and if they're as nervous as I am, that kind of made it easier for you guys being up here. Anyway, thanks to the Tea Party Patriots and to the Taxpayers Association for hosting this. I'll keep it brief because it looks like we're getting ready to do the gun drawing, and I have a vested interest in this. So I just I'm running to try and give the voice back to the people. I think that's what we're really, really missing at the local level, at the state level, and even the federal level. And again, the megaphone's on the table back there. Pick one up on your way out. And thanks again for hosting us and having us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.